Hey Grinder School, CodeRed Rules here, and today I've got hands from the latest Grinder Cash Game Series, played a couple weeks ago. We played a full ring session on Cake Poker. I think we had a pretty good turnout, so I was pretty happy with it. Thanks for waiting a week on the GCS, guys, and doing GTS last week. I came down with food poisoning, and was pretty much out of commission for about 5 or 6 days, so put it off for this week, and got my hands ready. So I got 12 of them here ready to go. So let's get going. So the first hand we've got Jetopu. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. These stats aren't right, so we'll do with that whatever. Jetopu is 15-12, 1, 25-25. He decided a 3-bet with the Ace-Jack offsuit here, which, you know, it's okay. I'm not necessarily a fan of this. I would usually call with it. We definitely shouldn't be 3-betting this as a bluff, right? We should be thinking that we're doing this for value. So we need to have a read on our opponent that he's going to be raising a wide range on the button and then calling raises widely too. And against most players, we don't have that read, and especially at this level, we're going to be assuming that we don't have that. So I would be calling the raise here and not making the 3-bet. But we 3-bet, and then we get 4-bet, and that's where we compound the mistake and call it off again. All right, calling the 4-bets. So we should either be calling pre-flop or 3-bet folding, facing a 4-bet. And I mean, you guys can 4-bet, or I'm sorry, 3-bet fold if you know that he's calling with all hands, only 4-betting you with like aces and kings. So calling 4-bets out of position is pretty much a no-no with all hands but aces and kings, and that's only just so we can get stacks and post-flop with them very easily. So I would be folding to this bet and not calling any 4-bets, but then just calling the raise normally. Try and play a small pot, guys, as much as you can when you're playing out of position. Don't try and create big pots with value hands unless you have, you're certain you have value with them. Because what's going to happen is most of the time we're just going to be check folding the flop here. Because how often do you really hit top pair with ace jack? You're looking at around 1 in 3. So, and even if we do hit that ace, I mean, the likelihood of us getting value from weaker ace is slim to none, and the likelihood of us being outkicked is actually going to be pretty high. So we're either going to be losing a massive pot here, getting stacked, or we're going to be winning pretty much the pot that we can currently have right now. So not a fan of the 4-bet. So yeah, definitely fold pre-flop after 3-betting, but I wouldn't even do that. Okay. Check raised here, easy to see why, has king queen. Decides to 3-bet it. I don't mind the 3-bet in this situation. And I think if it's offsuit, I would prefer you 3-betting it over calling. So I'm not necessarily unhappy about that. It's the post-flop play that I really question. I believe Flukason called out of position 3-raise with ace-jack, which is a fairly loose call, in my opinion, out of position, facing a 3-bet, so we should be folding to that. I wonder why these stats are kind of goofy like this, but whatever. The main play when we do this, if you're check raise, just go ahead and c-bet it once. If we get called, chances are our opponent is going to have a strong ace, so we should be letting it go. Flukas, on the other hand, he has the ace-jack, and the best way to get value from our hand here, hopefully our opponent was bluffing at this time. We should just be going ahead and checking and inducing that bluff. What we end up doing is just leading out, and the change of aggression here, where we go from the caller to the betters, is generally a sign of strength. We don't want to be folding out a lot of weaker hands, and so if our opponent did have a hand like kings and queens, we're giving him an opportunity to fold. In reality, we're not going to be getting more than 1 street of value from this hand anyway when we have ace-jack. So we should be thinking like this, like if we have ace-queen, we should be doing 2 streets, we'll be calling the flop and the turn. If we have ace-king, we're going to be stacking off, and we have ace-jack, we should really just be putting in 1 bet here on this board. So not a fan of the bet, because what happens is we're going to get raised, and then we're forced to play a really big pot with a hand that we're not necessarily willing to stack off with. Now, easy to see why I don't like your raise size. The reason why we have now invested over half of your stack into the middle, and once you reach that threshold, you reach the point of no return in terms of like commitment, the commitment threshold. You could easily have made a raise to $1.50 and have been just as effective, if not more effective, than the $2 raise. Just a big $2 raise makes it seem like maybe you're overdoing it. Um, if you had pocket aces here, would you really raise it up to $2? Okay, what you should be thinking of doing when you're bluff raising like this, think about what kind of raise size would you make it if you had the nuts here? Right? If you actually had pocket aces, you probably wouldn't even raise at all, right? Like you probably would just call. I mean, what's the point of raising here with the nuts? Um, so you really need to make sure that your play is going to be balanced, especially when you're playing against another solid opponent. So Granite School player here, Flukason, he's going to be a thinking player, so you really need to be balanced here. And that's one way you're going to get a lot more action. Actually, with your value bets too, is when you start making them look like bluffs and you start making your bluffs look like value bets, you're really going to confuse your opponents. And Flukason is not folding his ace jack, which it's so weird the way he's played. I mean, 3-bet pot really shouldn't be folding like top pair, but at some point you shouldn't be stacking off in a 3-bet pot with like ace jack offsuit. Um, Although really we could argue how we even got in the situation to begin with, but shoving in the middle, we end up folding out easy to see why the rest of his bluffs, and it's just an all-around strange hand played by both players, and I feel like both of you guys could have done differently. And in ace jack here, Flukason, you should just not be worried about getting bluffed off your hands and just fold it pre-flop. Out of position, calling re-raises becomes very dangerous and very unprofitable. Okay, on to hand number 3. Pretty standard here pre-flop. Ace king suited raising up. We have the 5s. The biggest problem that I have is the turn raise size here by White Dwarf. He ends up min raising the turn, and we end up losing a lot of value versus our hand range. Okay, we only end up getting roughly half of our stack in the middle. So how can we get the rest of this money in the middle here? This is what you guys would be wondering. If you guys ever wonder, it's like, wow, how come I always lose my stack with ace king versus a set, but I never gain a stack when I have a set versus ace king? Well, it's because you're not giving yourself the opportunity to get said stack. All right, against your other thinking opponent here, if you think ahead on when you're on the flop, if you think ahead, like, all right, well, if I raise the turn, all right, what's my hand going to look like? Well, it's going to look like a set. All right. Well, what kind of hand's going to be calling my turn raise? Well, either 2-pair or a higher set. What happens if you raise it right now? Well, you could have a set. You could have a flush draw. You could have a couple other things. Your raise here on the flop is going to be actually a lot bluffier than, say, a raise on the turn. So if you were to raise this up here on the flop, you raise this to 30 cents. Pot becomes 80 cents. All right, instead of 40 cents on the turn. We bet 60 cents here instead of the 52 that was in the middle. So then the pot would be 80 plus $1.20 would be $2. All right. And then we would be able to bet $1.50 here on the river. All right. Then the pot would be $5. So we would end up getting an additional dollar in the middle. And even more if we increase our bet sizes even more. So raising earlier allows you to build the pot earlier. And you know what? Once this guy hits his 2-pair on the turn, he's not going to be going anywhere. He's going to be in it for the long haul. So bet larger and bet earlier to build the pot more. All right, we can go on to the next hand. This hand's going to be pretty self-explanatory. I feel like the ace or king queen suited here on the button is pretty standard. We should be folding king 7 offsuit here, even though it's a min raise. It's offsuit. There's no kind of activity. I mean, if you think way back, how many years ago did Sklanty write his book about, what are the criteria for hand strength, right? Like connectivity, suitedness, and high card power. And you've got pretty much none of those 3 here we shouldn't be playing, regardless of the price that you have. If you feel like your opponent's going to be raise folding a lot in position, you could make a very, 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 very loose 3-bet bluff. I would just fold it, though. I mean, there's absolutely no scenario at all where I could actually consider me calling this hand king 7 offsuit. And what happens is we end up losing a lot of money post flop. Right? We donk out for whatever reason. Like we should not be trying to play a big pot here either. Our goal should be to play a small pot, pick off bluffs, get the showdown on the next hand. We're out of position. Play small pots out of position. We get raised on the turn. We end up calling. I mean, these are all signs of strength by our opponent. We're drawing dead here. There's really no reason for you to be in this hand at this point. Once your opponent raises the turn, especially okay, think about it this way: if your opponent waits to the turn to raise you, chances are he's got the nuts, right? So what would you wait to the turn to raise? How often do you get raised on the turn and end up being a bluff, right? So just let it go. You would end up saving 40 cents plus another 90 cents here on the river. That adds up. It really does. It adds up. And all of this could have been avoided just by a simple folding preflop. You could have saved almost a half a buy-in, and you probably should have. All right, on to the next hand. Again, I feel like this one comes with experience. Okay, for with you, Flugasan, if you end up getting bet into 3 straight streets, massive bet sizes, okay, how often is it really a bluff in this situation? And you don't have that difficult of a situation, in my opinion. Okay, so the pre-flop is standard call, the flop standard call, the turn. This is where your alarm bell should be going off. It's like, man, this is a really big bet. All right. At this point, you should be thinking, I hope he doesn't bet the river again. But if he bets it really big, I think he's gonna have me crush. He's gonna have a 3. He's gonna have ace. I doubt he even plays ace queen like this. He's got to have like kings or aces or pocket queens, maybe pocket sevens here. You know what I mean? Like you've got to be thinking to yourself, oh man, I know I have top right picker. Not a whole lot beats me, but once he puts this massive pot size river bet out here, and he leaves himself no room to be bluffed off, we come to the point where it's like, is he really bluffing me? And you're not getting that good of pot odds. 2-1. I really can't think of too many. Given you have the ace of clubs too, mind you. So even if he was trying to 3-barrel you with the flush draw, you have the most the most important flush draw kicker of it out there. So it's really hard for him to even have that. I would fold here, and I know it sucks because you have top right kicker, blind versus blind, and you think to yourself, oh, never fold top right kicker or whatever you say to yourself, but when it comes down to it, these are the folds that allow you to move up and allow you to really make your profit. This is probably an hour's worth of profit here that you're able to not give up at these stakes if you make this fold. And think about it. Think about it. How often do you see this play? Massive bet sizing, this big bets, 3 streets from a tight player. I mean, how often is that not a hand that has you beat? All right, I would be afraid if I had like pocket sevens here, honestly. Like what in this world does this guy have? I'd be stacking off, of course, but still, it would be like one of those weird, nervous things. Like, man, this guy's got the nuts. All right, go on to hand number 6. So pocket 8's raises early position. We decided to re-raise with the ace king. It's a relatively loose re-raise, in my opinion, given the stats of the other player. If we have a good read that he's really loose, we can make this re-raise. I would definitely raise it up more. I would probably make it 32 cents in this instance. Try to avoid callers. Not really avoid callers, but try not to get the set mining calling going on, because it's going to be really hard for you to fold when you flop your ace. You're giving him a pretty good price if you're stacking off when you hit your ace and he hits an 8. So we want to avoid that. But the 3-bet, in itself, the 3-bet, it's not really the reason why I chose the hand. I chose the hand because of this board. Right, when we 3-bet pre-flop, we get called. What kind of hand range do you think our players going to be calling with? Right? Excuse me. Trying to get stove up. Right, what kind of hand range do you think our opponent's going to be calling a 3-bet with? All right. Any pair. A lot of these Broadway cards, right? Of these cards on this board, seriously, what kind of hand range are we going to be getting to fold? All right, we're going to be getting 2s through 7s to fold only. That's how many percentage chance? We're at 7.1%. We can go back up here. 7.1% without them. Really? I mean, we're not even at like 3% of the hand. So we're only going to be folding out roughly 33% of his hand range. That's really rough. That's a really rough approximation. So we've got no fold equity whenever we see this board. So we should be not c-betting here. Okay, if our opponent has ace queen or king queen, chances are, maybe he'll check it down with us. We do have his outs counterfeited quite a bit if he does have those two hands. So I'm not that disappointed. We have position. We'll take the free card. Let's see what the turn brings. Maybe we get a free river too. And that's really all we're looking for. We bet it out when we get check raise, and I love the check raise by the A train here. It's a good situation to do it in. We're going to get played back at by the aces and the kings, and probably get queens to call us too. The only problem is that with the ace king, why would you call a check raise here? You've got a gut shot. That's what you're drawing to right now. You're not drawing the two overcards in a gut shot because there's really no card he could have in his hand range, no hand he could have in his hand range that would make us be drawing both to all those outs, unless he had like pocket sevens or something like that, and he's check raising, which would be really bad, and you wouldn't, you really can't think he's gonna be doing that. So I would be folding here, and I think it's a really easy fold, and we end up getting lucky and hitting the gut shot on the turn. All those times where you guys are like, oh, I can't believe you hit a gut shot on the turn. I mean, like, yeah, this is one of those times, guys, and we end up getting it in. So it's a pretty big cooler for A train, and Ace King definitely did not play this very well. Let's go ahead and take the free card. If you end up taking the free card and banging off that straight on the turn, then you made the correct play, okay? And then you gain EV, you know what I mean? You gain life EV or whatever you want to call it. The way you played it, you lost quite a bit. All right, let's go ahead and on to the next hand. Let's see if I can remember this one. Oh, I do remember this one. So Charles here decides to bet the flop. Gets called by White Dwarf. Charles has ace queen in this situation, and he specifically asked me to review this hand. And honestly, I don't know what White Dwarf has. He never sent in his hands. I don't know what hands he has in this situation. So what I've done here, what I would do is if I'm Charles, bet flop, bet turn, pretty standard so far. But this river, on the other hand, okay, be thinking about it this way: what kind of hand range could White Dwarf have that we're going to be getting value from other than King Queen? All right. So if King Queen is the only hand range that he has here that we beat, okay, and we split with Ace Queen, and he's folding everything else, I just don't see the value in a bet. Because Queen 10 is there, Jack 10 got there, Ace King got there. A lot of his draws that he could have their Broadway cards have gotten there. Now, if the river was any other card, really, I mean, the 10 is absolutely the worst card in the deck for your hand, and that's what you should be thinking to yourself. Like, the King is a bad card, and the 10 is a bad card. Any other card for you is actually a pretty good card. A Jack, not too bad. Queen is awesome, right? So I would be expecting to 3-bet or 3-barrel for value any card not a 10 or a king in this situation. Maybe even a heart, but that's a different. So the other problem is you look at the stack sizes going into this, and this is the bet size itself is pretty good. You probably no, I think the bet size is fine after the rake, but yeah. Think about what kind of hand he's going to be calling you with here. If you could think of a hand other than King Queen that will call your river bet, and you're ahead of, then I think you're okay. But King Queen only has 8 combinations out there, right? Queen Jack itself has 6 combinations. Ace King has another 12. All right, and let me see if there's any other ones I'm missing. Jack 10 has another 9. Right, so there's a lot of combinations out there. What I would do is I would actually check, and then let the Ace of Hearts. I don't know if you have the Ace of Hearts or not, but if you don't have the Ace of Hearts, certainly, that's going to be one of your potential bluff catchers. Is just go ahead and check to him, let him bet the dollar, and he might show up with king queen perhaps. He might value bet that. He might also show up with like ace nine of hearts, something like that. So I would rather check call rather than value bet in this scenario. All right, but I don't know what he has. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you. Ooh, a hand played by me. I like this. Right, so I played. Oh, I know. I remember this hand. I got ace jack suited here, pre-centered raise. I get 3-bet by Charles. He's been kind of 3-betting me quite a bit. I certainly feel like I have value with my 3-bet. My calling it. I only because I know Charles has been 3-betting me quite a bit. Outside of that, most of the time I don't recommend calling 3-bets out of position with the ace jack suited. In fact, I've already told about it once, probably in the same video. But I do it because I know Charles 3-betting me light, and I end up getting the dream flop of 2 overcards, open and straight flush draw. And to tell you the truth, Charles has king queen suited. And in this instance, I don't like his 3-bet with king queen suited. I would much rather see you just call it and play like a small pot in position here and try to do something post flop. On the flop, you decide to bet it out, and this is pretty much the same type of board that we talked about earlier with the ace-king hand, where the kind of hands that are calling 3-bets. All right, what are those hands? Like ace-queen, maybe? Ace-jack. Ace-queen would probably fold here. Ace-king would fold here. Ace-king, you're going to get 4-bet, probably. Ace-queen's going to be folding here. Ace-jack's not going to be folding here. So your fold equity essentially is ace-jack. Maybe king queen, but like person who calls king queen probably won't be doing so too much, especially given the fact that you have one in your hand. King jack, I mean, is going to be doing pretty well here. And my play, by the way, guys, is just to go ahead and check raise it all in. I mean, if I get called, I get called. We really can't be calling draws at this point. Given it's a 3-bet pot, he's already put the bet out there. The pot's going to get pretty big. Just go ahead and jam it in. I think he had king queen of clubs and he time banked here, which is actually it's a pretty standard fold. If he had king queen of hearts, it would be a call, and it would be a really sick cooler for him. But at the same point, like he probably should have just called it pre-flop. Yeah, if I'm him with the king queen, if I do 3-bet, all right, check it behind here, and hopefully maybe you hit a jack on the turn, maybe you hit a club on the turn or a king, or something that you improve. But otherwise, I'm calling with eights or higher pre-flop. This board smacks my range, and it sucks for you. So, and you don't have to c-bet, guys. Like every time you make a 3-bet, only c-bet the good boards. The good boards that aren't like Jack 10-9 or 10-9-8 or Queen. If you're bluffing, like 3 Broadway cards is gross for any kind of a bluff you have. If it's like 10-8 deuce, you know what I mean? Go ahead and 3-bet or c-bet that guy, or 10-4 deuce. Like, come on, c-bet those boards that are just really bad for me, and there's not much I can do about it. All right, on to the next hand. All right, so in this hand, check raised, easy to see why has ace queen, and we decide to 3-bet the under the gun raiser. There's very rarely am I going to be 3-betting ace-queen for value in a full ring game, especially against a tight player here who's 19-9, and especially versus an under-the-gun player. So, you've got to meet your criteria first before you decide to 3-bet here. Yeah, he min-raised, so what? Still call. Like, it doesn't matter what his raise size is here, you're still calling. So, yeah, stage 1, all right. Hand strength. Ace queen, yes, maybe blind versus blind, right? Step 2, reads. He's kind of he's kind of tight. 19-9. No, not going to 3-bet. Step 3, position. Oh man, he's out of the gun. Yeah, definitely not going to 3-bet that hand. Okay. So you've got 1, 2, 3 things. All of them should say we don't 3-bet. When really one of them is all we need to just make the call. So if you have ace queen, it's like, yep, good position. Blind versus blind. All right. Stage 2, player. Oh, yeah, he's a loose player. Stage 3, he's not under the gun, so we can maybe 3-bet for value here. So he's got to meet all those criteria. And I think, did I double up those 2 criteria? I'm not really sure. Under the gun and blind versus blind, it seems like it's going to be very similar. But hopefully you guys get my point. Ace queen, not 3-bettable. We get 4-bet. We get min 4-bet. And at this point, all right, we're pretty much, you know, hating ourselves because of the pot size here that's going on. Um, and at this point, we're getting 2-1 on a call on the flop. You might as well gotten it in pre-flop. You know what I mean? And go with it from there. And just because, look at the pot sizes. If you make this call, the pot's going to be huge. And I mean, you can't, I know you're telling yourself, oh, I can't really fold after 3-betting, you're getting into 4-bet. Well, he has no stack size behind him. So your odds for calling here, yeah, you're getting 4-1 on your money. At the same time, if you were to get it in right now, it'd cost you $1.20 to win, $1.80, 3-2. Yeah, it's not that great of odds. But you have to determine, what's gonna be the best bet. These odds are almost too good to pass up. I don't like. I guess the problem is, right. Why did you 3-bet pre-flop? Stack size is another important one where it ends up being really awkward post-flop. So I think you would avoid the situation mightily if you just played it safe and didn't 3-bet pre. Facing the min 4-bet though is a really tough situation that a lot of you guys probably wouldn't get yourself involved with. I think folding pre-flop is going to be an okay option there. I know it's gross, right? But like, what are you calling for to hit an ace, maybe, and then stack off? Because if you hit a queen and stack off, right, and if you hit a queen and you stack off and your hand is good, and if you get an ace and you stack off and your hand is good, then chances are like you could have just gotten it in pre-flop and it would have been fine. All right, so let's go on to the next hand here. This hands like this are kind of frustrating, right? We get like the 12-2 nits limping in jacks. We're isolating with the ace king of hearts, and we flop the world. But the frustrating part is when we just we don't get any value from our hands. We just absolutely get no value. And this is a classic example of slow playing in the flop. There's so many kind of hands that would call you on this flop that aren't going to call you on the turn that it's kind of crazy. Okay, I would bet big. I would bet 27 cents here. Because first off, like a lot of people don't pay attention to the bet percentage on the flop. I mean, they notice if it's pot size bet or if it's like half pot size bet. But like the difference between like 2/3 and 3/4 and 4/5 is like usually one big blind. And so I would certainly try and bet as big as I can without really going full pot here. We want to build this pot. You know what I mean? If he has a set right now, he's gonna be willing to get it in. If he has a pair and a flush draw, he's gonna be calling. But what happens when we we take a back, all right, and we hit our 4 flush, right? What happens is we lose the value we could have gotten before we hit that flush because now if he doesn't have a heart, all right, he's sunk. There's not much he can do. Yeah, he has a set right now, but he's not stacking off with his set because he's a 4 flush out there. So now the only way we're going to do anything is if we end up losing. We're either going to be losing a big stack right now if he hits his boat, or we're winning a small pot. And we went from having the nuts, having like the best situation we possibly can think of, going into this hand, and now with the 4 flush out there, because we didn't bet the flop, we lost all of our value. So we half pot this, all right. And our opponent hits off his boat on the river, and we end up only losing, 45 cents. Here's what I would have played it, right? On the flop, I bet 27 cents, right? Makes it 54. That makes it 88 cents on this pot. On the turn, I would be betting 70 cents. So that makes it $2.20 going into the river. He's going to be having let's see, I bet 20. He's going to have less than $2 left in his effective stack. The river comes in, he shoves, I call, we lose our stack. Not much you can do, but you know what? We had the opportunity to get stacks in on the river if when things went our way. So that's how I would have played it. Okay, this hand pretty much plays itself, and pre-flop is fine. Flop, great bet size. Turn, great bet size. River, what the hell are we afraid of? I mean, why are we checking this behind? what nothing came in, no draw came in. I mean, the only possible hand he could have is like Jack 9 or something, right? Like who? This guy's calling you with air. There's no reason. I think we talked about this in the Skype chat, but yeah, there's no reason why you shouldn't be going for 3-3 tier. Throw a bet, throw $1 out there. That $1 bet for value, guys, is like 30 minutes of profit that you're giving up by not making that play. So, I mean, and there's not even a scare card out there. No matter what card comes in that river, if he checks to you, you should be betting it out. Um, I seriously believe that even if it's a Jack, 7, a heart, if he hits it, most likely he's going to be betting it out. And then we call him. If he checks to you, bet it out. If he raises you, you fold. I mean, it's as simple as that. Try to go for max value. And especially when you have the nuts like this. I mean, just stop checking behind and getting your gotta make them pay to see your cards. All right, one last hand, and the natural has pocket 4s. White dwarf has pocket 6s. What should go down here is White dwarf should just be calling, and calling until he hits his straight or a set. All right, and the natural, I mean, he's sitting pretty with the set of 4s, but the White dwarf has actually got a pretty strong draw against those 4s. So why White dwarf raised here? He's trying to get his opponent to fold, when in reality, all right, the natural could you could already be ahead of those 6s. All right, we're not trying to stack off with the 6s. I know, because when we get shoved on, we end up folding. Alright, so if we were trying to stack off here, raise calling it off, even though we actually have roughly 10 outs here, I mean, we could potentially make this call. $3.20 into a 450 pot. 4-3 is our odds here. We could probably end up making this call, and it would be okay, just because our opponent's going to have ace king of clubs here and there too. Pocket aces. I mean, all these kind of hands are going to increase our equity and make this play. It's going to be like a break-even play. You're not making any money on this play, but you're not losing any money either by raising it up and then calling it off. I mean, I don't like getting my stack in on 40% equity, but I mean, if that's the only line you make it for yourself, then you have to do what you have to do. What I would do is I'm calling this bet here. I'm calling the turn, reevaluating the river. You know, if he's still betting strong on the river, I'm letting it go. All right. Maybe the deuce comes off, right? Or actually, hopefully the 7 comes off, because he's not going to put you on a 7. He's still going to give you 3 suits of value no matter what card comes off. 6 comes off, that's probably even better for you, but it's going to be harder for him to give value to you. Still going to be getting, but you really still can't check behind. You just got to keep value betting. All right, guys, this has been CodeRed Rules, and thanks for listening. Thanks for waiting the extra week for this video, and hopefully see you guys later. This has been Jeff, and good luck at the tables.